Hey, good afternoon, Paul. Are we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Looks like we have a quorum. Is everyone ready to go?
I'm sorry about that.
Larry, you ready?
Gary's ready.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, sorry about that. I actually had my volume down. So the time today is June 22nd. The time now is 1:34. I'd like to call the CPC meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call of all commissioners present. Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Flick,
Present.
Commissioner Mobley,
Present.
Commissioner Steig,
Present.
Commissioner Stewart's present, Commissioner Weberg,
Present.
Commissioner Whittree.
Present.
At this time now, I will read the special hearing rules into the record for today's meeting. Order of business. The order of business at the hearing shall be as follows. Call to order and roll call with recording of members present, approval of minutes, reading of hearing rules, presentation of dockets, staff presentation, applicant presentations, questions from members, recess for 30 minutes, consideration of dockets, public comment, rebuttal by applicant, questions from members, voting adjournment. Presentation of docket. The order of business for each docket shall be as follows. Presentation by the City Planning Commission staff or the Department of Safety and Permit staff. Presentation by the applicant or their representatives. The appellate or the applicant may appear on the behalf of the representative by a duly authorized agent. Only one representative may speak on behalf of a request and must pre-register with the staff of the City Planning Commission. Other representatives or speakers may sign up to provide comments during public comment portion of the meeting. The applicants shall be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. Questions from members. The members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or applicant. Recess. The commission shall take a 30-minute recess to allow members of the public to comment. Public comment. Rules. Only written public comment will be allowed. Live public comment will not be allowed. No member of the public may submit more than one written comment per agenda item. Time allowed for public comment. The public comment form will be made available at the start of the meeting and will close at the end of the 30-minute recess. Public comments must be submitted electronically on a form provided by the City Planning Commission. Any comment missing this information will not be read aloud. Each submission must contain the commenter's first and last name, the commenter's address, and whether the commenter is being paid in connection with his or her comments, and also the agenda item. Reading of comments. A moderator will read into the record all comments pertaining to that item that has been submitted in accordance with these rules. Comments will be read aloud in a normal speaking voice. The moderator will discontinue reading a comment once it exceeds 2 minutes. Rebuttal by applicant. Following the public comment period, if there is opposition, the authorized representative of the application is allowed a rebuttal not to exceed 2 minutes. Questions from members. Following the public comment and rebuttal, the members have an opportunity to ask questions from the staff of the applicant. Voting, making a motion. The member making a motion shall clearly state their name when making a motion. For example, I, Commissioner Stewart, move to approve the request. Seconding the motion. The member seconding the motion shall clearly state their name when seconding the motion. For example, I, Commissioner Stewart, second the motion made by Commissioner Brown. Statement by the chair will restate the motion confirming who made and seconded the motion. Voting, the chair will request a verbal vote from each member by roll call. Each member will indicate yay to vote in support of the motion or nay to vote in opposition. At this time, we'll go on to our agenda with the first item being adoption of the minutes of the May 25th meeting.
Commissioner Flick will make a motion to adopt the minutes of the May 28th meeting. May 25th meeting.
It's been moved by Commissioner Flick. Is there a second to that motion?
Witry will second.
Commissioner Witry seconds that motion for approval of the minutes from May 25th. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steig,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
All right. And did I miss any commissioner? All right. If not, unanimous approval for the motion. And we'll continue on to zoning docket 4821.
Zoning docket 4821 is a request by City Council Motion M21-122 for a text amendment to the comprehensive zoning ordinance to amend the permitted and conditional use table in Article 12, Table 12.1 to consider permitting grocery stores over 10,000 square feet in area in the HUMU Historic Urban Neighborhood Mixed-Use Districts throughout the city. Currently, commercial uses between 5,000 square feet and 10,000 square feet in area located in the HUMU district requires a conditional use. Commercial uses over 10,000 square feet in area are prohibited unless located within an existing structure through adaptive reuse. The proposed text amendment would exempt grocery stores from this prohibition by permitting the construction of new grocery stores over 10,000 square feet in area through the conditional use process. Grocery stores provide a needed public benefit to New Orleans citizens. However, a full service grocery store needs more than 10,000 square feet of area to accommodate loading spaces, backstock, display cases, food preparation, checkout areas, etc. Staff is supportive of the text amendment with one modification. The staff recommends that grocery stores be permitted by right up to 10,000 square feet in area in the HUMU districts and require a conditional use if over 10,000 square feet in area. The proposed text amendment with staff's proposed modification may bring needed grocery stores to New Orleans neighborhoods throughout the city by removing a potential zoning barrier. The addition of larger grocery stores over 10,000 square feet in area should remain consistent with the intent of the HUMU district, as current design regulations ensure newly constructed buildings are pedestrian friendly and activate the street. The text amendment is also consistent with the master plan and meets the goals of the Health and Human Services chapter. Therefore, the staff recommends modified approval of zoning docket 4821.
All right, at this time, do we have any representative from the city council present to discuss this application any further? All right. And at this time, commissioners, do you have any questions for staff for this zoning docket?
This is Commissioner Flick. I have a question. I just wanted to know if there was any, I know that there are design regulations for pedestrian friendly components, but will there be any design review of the building itself in terms of scale and facade and just sort of the way that it blends in with these historic districts?
Most of these would probably be located on commercial corridors, which most of those have a design overlay. And so those would be coming through our department for review. And if they're over a certain size, it would trigger DAC review. More than likely, it wouldn't need DAC review, but it would go through our department. I don't believe every HUMU district does have a design overlay, but I would say the majority do.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more questions for staff for zoning docket 4821? All right. There are no further questions. We'll continue moving on to zoning docket 4921.
Zoning docket 4921 is a request for a conditional use to permit a bar in an LI light industrial district that falls within the Eastern New Orleans Renaissance Corridor Use Restriction Overlay District and a CT Corridor Transformation Design Overlay District. The subject property is located on lot L6, which fronts Hain Boulevard near Diamond Road on an undesignated square in the 3rd Municipal District. The site is developed with a 2-story structure that contains a standard restaurant and living spaces. The applicant is seeking to occupy 1 unit of the structure on site for use as a bar. The staff has learned that the posted notice requirements described in section 3.3C1 have not been met for this application, and that a notification sign was not posted on site 15 days prior to the meeting. Therefore, staff recommends deferral of this item to the July 13th CPC meeting to allow the posted notice requirements to be met.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions as it relates to this zoning docket? All right. If not, we'll.
Hi, hello. Can you
Yeah.
guys hear me?
Yes.
This is Nadia Martin, representative for the applicant.
Okay. And I just want to confirm that you are aware that the notice requirement wasn't met and staff is recommending deferral to July 13th. And you guys are okay with that?
Well, I guess we don't have much choice in that situation. We were notified about the sign on yesterday that we needed to pick it up. So we did pick it up on yesterday and it is now posted, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, do you have any questions? Staff or for representative? All right, if there are no questions, we'll continue moving on with the agenda to zoning docket 5021, which was withdrawn. So we won't be taking any action on zoning docket 5021. We'll continue on to zoning docket 5121.
Zoning docket 5121 is a plan development application for a property located at the corner of Josephine and Rousseau Streets in the Lower Garden District. It is a historic warehouse structure that's in the HUMU district that extends generally along Chapatulas and then into the neighborhood a bit, and which includes a lot of the formerly and historically industrial property that's located along the riverfront in the Lower Garden District. The proposal here is to adaptively reuse this warehouse structure as a pickleball facility. So in terms of zoning, that is a health club that in this case would also have bar, restaurant, and live music components. And so you've got the pickleball courts themselves as well as the supporting commercial uses. And so the plan development is basically a tool to put that all in one ball of wax and authorize it as a single development. The plan development tool in particular is being used here for a couple of reasons. One is that this is a structure that exceeds 10,000 square feet in floor area. As we heard a moment ago, as it relates to grocery stores, in the HUMU districts, commercial uses can't exceed 10,000 square feet. And so in order for this pickleball facility to fill up the entirety of the structure, as well as the new construction components that are planned, there has to be a plan development which allows it to go beyond the 10,000 square foot limit that is generally applied in HUMU. And then secondly, because this is the adaptive reuse of an existing structure, using the plan development process creates flexibility in terms of zoning regulations to accommodate the adaptive reuse of that structure in this commercial sense. So it's kind of an unusual application in that it's a plan development that contemplates commercial development, whereas most of the ones we've seen thus far are residential. But it's really a tool that allows for this historic industrial structure to be repurposed. The staff is supportive of the application. We've seen throughout the city that there, we have a lot of post-industrial neighborhoods where you've got warehouses and other industrial structures that no longer are realistically usable for industrial purposes. And so you've got developers that are seeking to put them back into commerce as performance venues or recreational establishments is the case here. And so the plan development function or the plan development project type allows for the zoning regulations to sort of be tailored to the adaptive reuse of these structures. It'll help, put activity back in this formerly industrial section of the Lower Garden District. It'll provide amenity space to the neighborhood. And most importantly, given the purpose of the plan development, it does allow for the adaptive reuse of the structure. So with all of that in mind, the staff is supportive of the application. We are recommending approval with 2 exceptions, which are related to the square footage limit in HUMU, as well as to the permeability requirement on site, given the permeability needs for pickleball courts, some of which will be located outdoors. And then there's a number of provisos that really have to do with the sort of fine-grained zoning requirements related to design, as well as the operational requirements of the bar and restaurant uses. So this is before you with an approval recommendation from the staff.
All right, thank you, Stephen. At this time, is the applicant or representative present for zoning docket 5121?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, hi, Avery. All right, at this time now, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Stephen, for the comprehensive report. I'm just going to very quickly pass it over to the developer and architect who are also here for any questions, and just let her give a few comments.
All right, Avery, state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Avery Foray with Sherman Strategies, 800 Barone Street.
Good afternoon. I'm Renee Melchiotti. I'm the developer on the project, and I just want to thank you all for the thorough report that you did. I have had nothing but a great experience working with the CPC from the beginning. Before I even hired the lawyers, you all were helping me and very supportive of the process, and I really appreciate it. As you know, we're trying to be the first pickleball facility, and I don't know if you all know what pickleball is, but it's a combination of ping pong and tennis. And we are excited to be first to the market. It's very a game that's easy to learn, that's good for beginners and advanced athletes, and it evens the playing field along for generations and genders. I think, Stephen, you really talked about how we're repurposing the use of an old warehouse, which is something that's going on around the country and evolving as our neighborhoods evolve. And we do think that this is going to really beautify the neighborhood, add greenery, add walkability, bikeability. And we really appreciate that you all understood that in your report. I just want you to know we've had great neighborhood support, neighborhood associations. And the day we closed on the property, we even had somebody at our door with their own paddles and net who was very disappointed to learn that the process was going to be just a little bit longer. So thank you again. I really believe this is one of those projects that if you build it, they will come. And I can't wait to see you all there on opening day.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, at this time now, do you have a question for staff or for the representative that's present?
This is Commissioner Wittry. I just wanted to ask, does the Lower Garden District, did they give you their approval on the project or recommendation?
They did. They were overwhelmingly in support. We had people show up to the neighborhood association meeting and said they had never been to an association meeting before. They are excited in the neighborhood. So, and as were the Lower Garden District. Not the, I mean the Irish Channel.
This could be a question for staff or applicant. I'm looking at it on the the site plan and then on a map. So the corner of, that'd be Josephine and Rousseau, I guess. That's not involved. So the parking, if I'm reading this right, the parking is interior parking. And then there's it looks like 2 lots on the corner that are not involved in the project. So you are captured in the warehouse, and then that small, looks like it's gonna be an exterior court, but there is a corner that's not involved in the project and the parking is inside, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure I was reading the plans right.
All right. Any other questions from any other commissioner at this time? All right. If not, thank you so much. We'll continue on with the agenda to subdivision docket 5521.
Subdivision docket 5521 is a request to re-subdivide lots A, B, D, E, F, G, 2, 9, and 10 into lots 2A and 9A in the St. Roch neighborhood. Lots 10 and 9 are zoned HURD2, while the rest of the lots are zoned HMC2. The lots are all collectively used by Whitney National Bank, which has an operating bank along St. Claude Avenue. Most of the lots are used as parking and drive-through facilities for the bank, and this use of the residentially zoned lot is a legally non-conforming use. The applicants are proposing to subdivide the property into 2 lots, which will continue to operate as parking and drive-through facilities for the bank, and lot 9A, which creates a split zone lot with half the property zoned HURD2 and the other half zoned HMC2. The applicants propose selling lot 9A, which they do not currently need for the bank. The bank building and additional lots owned by the bank are not part of the subdivision proposal. The proposal will create an irregularly shaped lot 2A, as well as a split zone lot 9A. While the configuration and shape of the lot is not problematic, proposed lot 9A creates a split zone lot with both commercial and residential zoning. The configuration of the split zone lot cannot be approved without an accompanying zoning change. Staff recommended Proviso 1 speaks to this requirement. Therefore, staff recommends tentative approval of subdivision docket 5521 with final approval subject to 4 provisos.
And before we go on, Commissioner Stewart, can you mark me recused on this docket item? This is Commissioner Stieg.
Okay. All right. Let's make sure the record reflects that Commissioner Stieg will be recusing himself on subdivision docket 5521. At this time now, do we have the applicant or representative present from Whitney Bank for this subdivision docket? Do we have a representative present from Whitney Bank?
I see the person on the call right now, but I think they're muted still. It should be Brian.
This is Brian Carmack. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you. Please state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
701 Poydras Street, New Orleans.
All right, Brian, I think you went out again, Brian.
Are you able to hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, yes, it's the address for Hancock Whitney Bank that I'm working out of is 701 Poydras Street in New Orleans.
All right, do you have anything else to add from what we've heard, the summary from the staff on this subdivision docket?
Yeah, just one small correction here. The lot 9A is actually not the one we are actually proposing to sell. It's the proposed lot 2A that we are expected to sell. Lot 9A is still currently used as the drive-through area for the bank branch.
Brian, thank you for that clarification. That was a large part of my question.
Sure. Sure. And, you know, I did want to point out that with the current drawing of proposed lot 9A includes lot 8 and 9 of the excuse me, lots 9 and 10, which is currently the ones that are residentially zoned. What we're actually looking at doing is actually, instead of chasing the rezoning, instead modify this proposal to include the eastern portions of lots D, E, F, and G. Instead, to not include lots 9 and 10, but instead create a new lot 19 that will include lots 19, 18, 3, and 4. So that will cover the bases on not including a lot that's currently zoned as residential, but also create a situation where we're not landlocking the eastern portions of D, E, F, and G. So, you know, of course, I understand that that's going to require an updated survey to show the new proposed lot 9A. So, you know, of course, at this time, I'd like to request a deferral to the next meeting to see if we can get this these lots included in a new proposed lot.
This is Commissioner Mobley with a question for staff. Would the submission of that, those are some pretty significant changes to this proposal.
Yeah.
Would it be more appropriate for an ask to withdraw and resubmit a different proposal rather
yeah.
than deferral?
If they're proposing, so, and I know that the applicants we haven't looked at this before, so I don't know. The only thing is I don't know if because they have an existing building there, I don't know if there's other conditions that then will trigger that coming before the City Planning Commission. So whether or not this needs a whole new application, we'd probably have to look at the proposal. I don't know if Stephen wants to weigh in whether or not we would need a whole new application or just a new survey.
Yeah, I think what makes sense to do is to defer it for now. We'll get a copy of the survey, figure out the extent of the changes, and based on that, decide if we need to treat it like a new application or just an updated version of this one. But I think at this point, deferring makes sense.
Thank you, Stephen. And based on since the applicant is asking for a deferral, I'll just give staff a moment, and then maybe they can come back and give us a date where it's appropriate, where it fits with the timing of the application, and also the other pending dockets to come back with the actual date for the deferral. Okay. Any other commissioners have any questions as it relates to subdivision docket 5521?
I have a question about why and I guess we're going to see changes, but the subdivision we're looking at here does not involve the main bank building. And the main bank building looks like it also lays across a couple of lots. Just curious why everything isn't being cleaned up at the same time, why we're only doing part of it. Brian, if you have an answer for that.
You know, I don't have an answer for that. That was, you know, this proposal, the proposed subdivision was moved forward on the advice from our representation and real estate professionals.
That will be a question I have. I guess this is a lot of work, and now we're going to see it again with the change. There's a parking lot that's not involved in this re-subdivision that's across a couple of lines. There's a building that's across at least 4 of these lots. Like, my question is, why go halfway? Why not clean all of this up if we're doing it at the same time?
I think it more than likely had to do with the ease of this application and proposal, just to make sure that we can get it done as quickly as possible, so that we can we meet the time deadlines provided by the prospective purchaser for the proposed lot 2A.
Yeah. So this is all about the sale of 2A and not about cleaning up the Whitney Hancock lots.
Correct. And of
Okay.
course, as much of the cleaning up as we can get done in the same amount of time, we're definitely happy to move forward.
No,
with
that
those.
point of clarification actually helps me understand why it was done in this manner. So thank you for that.
You're quite welcome. And as a matter of fact, I would think that if the rezoning of lots 9 and 10 weren't an issue, we'd probably move forward with application include all the lots in question that surround the branch are in use by the bank.
Thank you for that.
All right, any
You're
other
welcome.
questions from any other commissioner? All right, there are no further questions. We'll move on to subdivision docket 5721.
Subdivision docket 5721 is a proposal to subdivide essentially you've got a property at the corner of Orchid and Crete Streets that has two historic structures. They've historically existed on the same lot. The owner would like to sell one of them while retaining the other as his residence. And to do that, he's seeking to introduce a common property line that would be between the two structures. This has to be considered by the Planning Commission under Policy E for a couple of reasons. Number one, the corner lot, which would be for 1100 Crete Street, would be substandard in size because essentially the lot is small to be proportionate, one, to the structure, and then secondly, to accommodate the locations of the neighboring building and the rear structure. So number one, that lot is small and it has to be considered by CBC for that reason. Secondly, the introduction of that common property line is going to create substandard setbacks on either side of the new property line. So normally you have to have a 3-foot setback between a residential structure and a property line. They're going to be about 2.5 feet in this case. And that's because there's only about 5 feet between the two structures in total. So Policy E is really designed exactly for this sort of situation where you have multiple main buildings that are on a single lot. It allows flexibility in kind of jogging new lot lines around historic building footprints. And so this is wholly consistent with what Policy E is intended to accomplish. The staff recommends approval of it, tentative approval, subject to standard provisos around completing the subdivision process and securing approval from the other reviewing agencies that consider subdivisions, including safety and permits and the Historic District Landmarks Commission. So the staff recommendation is tentative approval.
Can I ask Stephen a question before we hear from the applicant? The building at the back of new lot H1, that doesn't belong to H1? Because there's a fence that separates it from H2.
Yeah, I think that's a question for the owner. I mean, it's an accessory building, but it's unclear which building it's historically been attached to.
Okay.
All right, at this time now, Mr. Mitchell, if you state your name and address for the record. Thought I saw him. Mr. Mitchell, you're still on mute.
Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry about that. My name is Kenneth Mitchell. My address is 1102 Crete Street, New Orleans, Louisiana 70119.
All right, and if there's anything that you want to additionally add, I know Commissioner Stieg has asked a question about the accessory shed on the property identified as H1. If you want to.
Yeah, the accessory in the back initially goes with the corner property. Historically, that's the it's part of the corner lot. I mean, the corner house.
So, Mr. Mitchell, this is so. My question then is, why are you not wanting to include it on the corner lot if it goes with the house on the corner lot?
Well, I the plan was to turn that into a garage for my use.
Okay.
But that's, I'm flexible on that.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Stephen, it's Commissioner Witcher. I have a question for Stephen. Is there any negative consequences down the road that we can think of in terms of applying for any type of permits when you have such a smaller lot? Am I reading that correctly, that it will be 16 in the front?
Yeah, you are. I mean, there are not zoning problems that arise. While the lot is small, the rear yard would, be approximately what's required, and certainly the most that can be provided given the presence of that accessory structure. What the one thing that is going to be an issue is that because the setbacks on either side of that new property line between 1100 and 1102 are less than 3 feet, they're not, number one, they're not compliant with the setback requirement, but I think more importantly here, they're not compliant with building code, which requires 3 feet. So the way around that, or not around it, but the way of dealing with that is to fire rate the structures, and Safety and Permits has given us a comment that should this be approved, the eaves of the structures would have to be fire rated to deal with that building code issue. So yes, there could be an issue with permitting, but there is a means of rectifying that by fire rating the structures to resolve the issue. Outside of that, I don't think there's going to be any, practical problem with having a 17-foot wide lot here.
Stephen, when you say fire rate, you mean those will have to become solid walls? Yes?
So I think that's a conversation that needs to be had with Safety and Permits. The Safety and Permits comment spoke only to the eaves, not to the walls themselves.
Okay.
So there may be a more limited scope of work that would accomplish that objective.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for the applicant or additional questions for staff? All right, there are no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And we'll continue on to subdivision docket 5821.
Subdivision docket 5821 proposes to reconfigure 2 rectangular lots into 1 rectangular lot and 1 L-shaped lot. While the creation of L-shaped lots is not expressly prohibited by the subdivision regulations, such lots are nonetheless a deviation from the general prevailing pattern of rectangular lots. In most cases, subdivisions that create minor, quote-unquote, minor L-shapes would be acceptable to staff. A minor L-shaped lot is one where the perpendicular leg, for lack of a better way to put it, the leg of the L-shaped lot relative to the original rectangular lot is 15% or less of the original lot's square footage. The leg of the proposed L-shaped lot is approximately 31%, which is well above the 15% threshold. Therefore, the staff can support a modified approval to bring the leg extension of proposed lot B1A down to 15% of the total lot area. Excuse me. The staff's recommended provisos would ensure that the lot meets this threshold. The applicants are requesting the subdivision in order to reassign their swimming pool to the lot where their home is located by annexing a portion of the lot next door, which they also own, and where the pool is installed. The series of events that gave rise to the applicant's pool being installed on a different lot than the one containing their current legal residence began over 20 years ago and is related to the applicant's protracted negotiations with the city and ultimately to a lawsuit that kept one of the subject lots in legal limbo for over 10 years. Nevertheless, the staff can can still recommend a modified tentative approval of subdivision docket 5821 with the final approval subject to 4 provisos.
All right, thank you. And at this time, we have the representative of the applicant or the applicant present to discuss subdivision docket 5821.
Yeah, hi, Audra Choate here.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes to discuss.
Okay, yeah. My name is Audra Choate, and I'm at 1377-79 Magazine Street in New Orleans, 70130. And we are here. We want to request the re-subdivision into the L-shaped lot. And I know that they had recommended a modified approval, but we'd like to ask for approval as depicted from our survey that we had done back in March.
Okay.
So I have a question, Ms. Commissioner Stieg. Ms. Choate, we see the pool, and then on the survey that we're looking at, there's a little building.
Yes.
Is that the pool house, or what is that little building?
Yes, it's the pool house that has all the equipment in it.
Okay. And then it backs up to a building that would be at the very back of the lot you want to create, A2A. And what's that building? There's a little...
The fence?
No, on the other side of the fence, there's a little rectangle drawn in on the survey back there.
Yeah.
On the back boundary line.
It's a piece of just landscaped.
Okay.
Yeah, landscape.
So I have a question for staff, if that, Robin.
Yes.
The modified approval, tell me specifically what the modified approval that staff is recommending would do. Where would it draw the line?
It would draw the line considerably closer to the pool than it currently is. The line there between the pool and the house.
And it would put the pool house on the other side.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. Wait a minute, I don't have it. I don't have the survey up in front of me. But what
I think it would have to.
Yeah,
because the pool house is all the way at the far end. Okay, I just want so it would draw the line somewhere between the pool and the pool house, so that the non-rectangular piece is only 15% of the rectangular piece.
Correct.
Okay.
If I could just add, you all might remember when we reviewed the proposed subdivision regulations, this is the exact issue that you sent those back to us for consideration. And so we don't have the final language there, but this is the issue that you all were concerned about at the last meeting because it was another application with a similar issue.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant or staff as it relates to subdivision docket 5821?
Yeah, I guess I have one more question. So, Ms. Choate, do you have any cost estimate of what it would cost to move the pool house closer?
Yeah, I do not. And I don't even believe that would be possible to do that, but I don't have any cost estimates right now.
Okay, and why might it not be possible?
The way the pool is bricked out, I don't know if there would actually be the space to move that over there. I guess I would have to have it looked into.
Okay, is that whole area, it has little speckles on the survey, but the survey on my screen is about,
yeah,
a teeny fraction of an inch. Is that all paved?
Yes.
So the whole thing is paved all the way up to the pool house?
The whole area is paved brick.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, thank you.
Ms. Choate, this is Commissioner Mobley. I would love to hear the story of why your pool ended up on the other side, if you would be willing to share that with us.
I would absolutely be willing to share it with you. It's a fairly lengthy story. I have it somewhat documented in a kind of timeline letter. I don't know if that would be easier to forward to you, or do you just want me to?
I would love to have you read it into the record.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in our packet, but if you could walk us through it, I agree. It would be nice to hear it from you.
Sure. So we purchased our house at 1373-75 Magazine Street in 1999. And currently the 7779 was extremely blighted. So we went to work immediately maintaining the property with the intentions to hopefully purchase it. Well, then we were informed by the city to quit maintaining it, which we did, and we let it become blighted. So then we went through all the proper channels to get it declared blighted. Once we did that, we went to NORA to make the purchase. They were out of funding, so they sent us to the city attorney's office. There we were able to successfully, I don't know if you need the timeline, I think it was in 2003 or 4, but we were able to successfully purchase the land, and we have the bill of sale and everything signed by Ray Nagin. So then we went and spent, cleared out the property. My husband's an architect, ready to build our dream home where we intended to put the pool. Well, in the meantime, I guess Nora had expropriated the property back from the city and resold it to a, I think, fairly well-known real estate developer for a fraction of the price that we paid for it. So then from there, it was tied up in lawsuits for probably the next 10 years until finally he, I believe, got very ill and was ready to settle it. So I guess it wasn't passed on to his heirs. So we did finally end up settling with him, and were able to get the property in, I believe, 2015. And then we went on to build our house. And then we L'd off the backyard so we could still have use of the pool. So that's kind of it in a shortened nutshell. If that helps answer any questions.
Thank you so much for walking us through.
Sure, I'm sure that I'm leaving out, but that's basically kind of the timeline or the events that happened.
Thank you.
Sure.
So to review, you were living in the house on A2A when you built the pool.
Yes, we were.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank y'all.
Commissioner Witcher has a question. And Bob, this may be to you. With our subdivision new regulations that may come out, would the staff's approval be different based on what we're trying to achieve?
So we haven't come up with any kind of final language. My understanding was that the commission wanted there to be greater flexibility, that the 15%, which was something that we adopted based upon an interpretation by the Director of Safety and Permits on minor zoning map amendments. And we adopted that same threshold for this purpose because there was none previously. The commission felt that that was too rigid, and that you all have seen a number of applications where that was too rigid for in order to accommodate applicants who were trying to do things similar to this, which is expand the usable portion or the usable space on their lots by taking from an adjacent property. So again, I don't have specific language, but I think the sentiment that was expressed by the commission was, one, flexibility, and two, to be able to recommend, basically have an easier process for applications that make sense and that have a logic behind them, and is not just creating a nuisance with respect to a lot configuration. And if that's, I know a number of you are involved in that conversation. If that's consistent, if that's not consistent with what you were saying, that's the takeaway that we have. We just haven't gotten around to crafting the specific language, or whether that really would be a threshold. We've talked about, is there a line where we could say, anything up to that line is a staff approval, and beyond that line is something that the commission sees with a less rigid, standard for approving. But that's the general sense that we got from your comments last week or last meeting. Hope that helps.
Thank you, it does.
The questions for the applicant or for the staff for subdivision docket 5821. All right. If there are no further questions, we'll continue on with the agenda to zoning docket 5221. Okay.
And these are several new items that, as has become routine, will need to be deferred to the next meeting to accommodate the other ones on our agenda.
Okay. All right. So at this time, there's no one to speak for those zoning dockets. At this time, Commission, the time now is 2:24. The chair will entertain a motion for a 30-minute recess so that we can hear public comment.
This is Commissioner Wittray. I'll go ahead and make a motion for recess. We can reconvene at 2:55.
It's a move by Commissioner Wittray for a 30-minute recess and reconvene at 2:55. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Flick will second.
And Commissioner Flick has seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion on that motion? There's no further discussion on the motion. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes, Commissioner Weberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Stewart, I'm online. Commissioner Lund.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
All right, we'll reconvene at 2:55. All right, commissioners, the time now is 2:55. If you're back, would you please turn your cameras on so we can do a roll call? All right, the time now is 2:56. We're going to start with a roll call so that we can reconvene. Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Flick,
Present?
Commissioner Lund,
Present.
Commissioner Mobley,
Present.
Commissioner Stieg,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart, yes, present. Commissioner Weberg,
Present.
and Commissioner Tree. All right, we have a quorum, and we will start off with our public comment. Stephen, did we receive any public comments?
There were two public comments submitted. One was for the subdivision ratifications, and the other one was for item number 7, subdivision docket 5721, which is the one on Queen Street.
Okay. All right, commissioners, since we only received 2 comments, we didn't receive any for zoning docket 4821. We'll start with zoning docket 4821.
Commissioner Mobley will motion to approve for modified approval of 4821 as per staff recommendation.
Commissioner Brown will second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Mobley and seconded by Commissioner Brown for modified approval. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Is there any further discussion on the motion? Is there no further discussion? I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg?
Yes.
And Commissioner Witry. Commissioner Witry?
Present.
All right. All right, so Commissioner Witcher, we actually have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Mobley, seconded by Commissioner Brown for modified approval for zoning docket 4821.
My apologies for coming in late. Are you asking me to vote on this?
Yes.
Yes, then yes.
Yeah, all right. Unanimous support for zoning docket 4821, and that motion passes. We'll move on to zoning docket 4921, where we received information for staff for a deferral to July 13th. Is there any discussion on this zoning docket? Or a motion?
This is Commissioner Flick. I'll make a motion to defer zoning docket 4921 to the July 13th meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second Commissioner Lund.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Flick and seconded by Commissioner Lund for deferral to the July 19th meeting. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Any further discussion on the motion? All right, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Stieg?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
All right, unanimous support for the motion. The motion is carried for deferral to July 13th. At this time, we'll go on to item number 4 on the on the agenda, which was zoning docket 5021, but that item was withdrawn. So we'll continue on to zoning docket 5121.
Mr. Chair, is that the Whitney Bank application?
No, Commissioner Steve. One more till we get to that one.
Okay, great. Thank you. I lost track.
And staff recommendation on this one is approval with 2 exceptions and 18 provisions.
This is Commissioner Fleck. I'll make a motion for approval of zoning docket 5121, subject to 18 provisos and 2 exceptions.
Seconded.
Mo-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is Commissioner Mobley. I will second, despite still not understanding what pickleball is.
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Flick and seconded by Commissioner Mobley for approval based on staff recommendation. Is there any further discussion on the zoning docket or the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
I look forward to showing commissioners what pickleball is all about. I have a standing challenge for any of you.
You're on, Commissioner Weidberg.
Challenge accepted.
The minute
Yes.
you made it competitive, we were all in.
I'll call the question.
Raised with purpose, my
Yeah, I
fellow
see a
commissioners,
round
raised
robin
with
coming.
purpose.
Yeah, I see a tournament on the way.
All right, so I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steig,
Yes, with a special invitation to Commissioner Weidberg.
Commissioner Stewart, yes, Commissioner Weberg.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Unanimous support for zoning docket 5121 and the motion is carried for approval. We'll move on to subdivision docket 5521 and we'll ask Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you.
And based on what we heard, Stephen, if you want to give us an actual date, the applicant did request a deferral, and I wanted to make sure that staff actually checked for the appropriate date.
Yeah, so the next 2 meetings are July 13th and July 27th. From the staff's perspective, July 27th is a lot more workable because we need to have an updated report done on Friday for July 13th, and I don't know that we can get that done. This is on deadline, so the applicant would need to consent to whatever particular date it is. So I would suggest July 27th, but again, the applicant would need to consent to that.
Okay. So I don't see Mr. Brad present. Is there a representative from Whitney Bank present?
Is there any way we can contact him to get him back on? Because we really do need his consent or we can't defer it.
Yeah, why don't we table this for the moment and we'll see if we can get him back on the line.
Motion to table until we have a representative present.
Seconded.
Been moved by Commissioner Weber, seconded by Commissioner Mobley to table subdivision docket 5521. Is there any further discussion? There's no further discussion on the motion. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steig. I'm sorry, Commissioner Steig has recused himself. Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
Commissioner Witchery.
Yes.
All right. We'll continue on with the agenda to subdivision docket 5721.
Zoning docket 5721, we do have one public comment from Kenneth Mitchell, 1102 Crete Street, who states he is a paid representative in support of the application. And the comment is, please consider that the character of the house would be negatively impacted if a firewall is required. Thanks.
All right.
That's all.
Commissioners, at this time, is there a motion or a question to staff about subdivision docket 5721? And if you do have a question, particularly for Mitchell, who is still present as well.
I have one quick question for staff. So we heard that the accessory building actually goes with the lot on the corner, but that Mr. Mitchell would like to have it to be a garage for his lot, his larger house next door. And I assume the staff has no problem with that since the staff recommendation was for approval. I just want to confirm that.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for approval in accordance with staff recommendation. It's a tiny little lot on the corner, but that's because it's a small house and it's wide enough to accommodate the small house, and the distances between the lots, although it's supposed to be 3 feet, there are lots of places in the city that aren't, and it's at least 2 foot something. So, it's not like they're 4 inches apart. So I think the staff's recommendations protect as much as they can. So I move for approval.
Commissioner Brown will second.
Been moved by Commissioner Steve for approval based on staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Steve?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Sorry, I
yes.
didn't hear.
Commissioner Weberg?
Yes.
And Commissioner Whitty?
Yes.
Unanimous support for subdivision docket 5721.
Commissioner Stewart, before we move on, I have a question. I'm sorry, I should have asked it earlier. It's Commissioner Lund. This would be for staff. One of the provisos is requiring that if applicable, the applicant receive a consent letter from a mortgage company. I just want to make sure I understand that when we before reviewed the recommendations and subdivision regulation changes, that would be modified. And I guess it wouldn't be modified until the point at which we completely go through the subdivision, the adoption of the new subdivision regulations. But am I correct that after that time, someone who had a mortgage would need to really just to certify themselves that they have the consent of the mortgage company?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. And that won't take effect until after we recommend adoption and then the city council adopts it. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time now, we're going to go back to subdivision docket 5521. We have the representative from Whitney Hancock, Whitney present. Mr. Brian.
So will you recuse me then, Commissioner Stewart?
Yes. Please let the record reflect that Commissioner Steve is recusing himself. Mr. Bryan, are you? Mr. Bryan,
yes, I'm here.
Are you there?
This is Brian Carmack with Hancock Whitney.
Okay. So Mr. Bryan, you made a request for a deferral. Staff has determined that the best date is July 27th, which kind of puts you out of the application window. Are you okay with a deferral to July 27th?
That would be fine with us.
I will make the motion, but I would like to ask Brian, when we see this again, I would like to see it in one of two ways. Would love to see everything on the block solved in terms of the holdings of Hancock Whitney, or just the property that is to be sold. This was very confusing, how it was presented and how it connected with everything. So I think going one of the two directions, as you said in your presentation, would be the most helpful to make it clean and just be the properties that are for sale and those impacted properties, or doing something in toto.
Sure.
Great, and I'm happy to make the motion to move this to the July, and we said 20, what did we say, Stephen?
27th.
27th, deferral to the 27th.
All right, thank you very much.
Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner
Which we
Flick
will
will second.
oh,
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Weberg for deferral to July 22nd, and it was seconded by Commissioner, was it Witry?
Flick.
Commissioner Flick. All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Is there any further discussion on the motion? If there's no further discussion on the motion, Commissioner, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steeg has recused himself. Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Witry.
yes.
Unanimous support for deferral to July 27th. And we'll go proceed with the agenda to subdivision docket 5821.
And this, the staff is recommending tentative approval with final approval subject to 4 provisos. A reminder that one of those provisos would require the like dog shape, the dog leg part of the L to be reduced to 15% of the lot, which the applicant would prefer not be included with the approval. So just a reminder of that issue.
All right. Commissioner, at this time, do you have a question for staff or a motion for subdivision docket 5821?
So this is Commissioner Steeg. I do have a motion. My motion is going to be for approval as submitted and without the proviso requiring the extra, that the dogleg portion be reduced to the 15%. And my reasoning is this, that we see these are physical situations that exist in the real world. The person's pool is there. The other area is completely paved, and the pool house is in the back. And we just got finished the other re-subdivision where we accommodated the physical reality of that house on the corner. And this seems to me to fall in the same category. So my motion is for approval without the requirement that dogleg be reduced to 15%.
Commissioner Mobley will second. For much the same reason, and the addition that 10 years of fighting to properly own land seems an absurd burden that we should in some way remedy.
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Steeg for approval as submitted by the applicant, seconded by Commissioner Mobley. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
No, I'm in support of the motion, and will say that the additional 15% feels like appropriate restitution in this regard.
Any additional comments on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yep. Yes.
Commissioner Steeg,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
All right. Unanimous support for the motion for approval by the applicant as submitted for subdivision docket 5821, which brings us to zoning docket 5221, zoning docket 5321, and the subdivision docket 6021. And zoning docket 5421, which the recommendation was for deferral, right? On those, Stephen?
Yeah, deferral to July 13th.
All right, so at this time, commissioners, we did not receive any public comment on those. So is there a motion to move those items?
This is Commissioner Flick. I'll make a motion to defer zoning dockets 5221, 5321 5421 and 6021. Is that right? To the July 13th meeting?
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Commissioner Witry will second.
All right. It's been moved by Commissioner Flick and Commissioner Witry to remain our remaining items except for the subdivision ratifications to our next meeting. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Any further discussion on the motion? There's no further discussion on the motion. I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown,
Yeah.
Commissioner Flick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund,
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley,
Yes.
Commissioner Steeg,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart, yes. Commissioner Weberg,
My apologies, yes.
Commissioner Witry.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Unanimous support for the motion, which brings us to our last actionable item for today, which was subdivision ratifications. We did receive one public comment, so Paul, if you would you please read that into the record?
Sure. The comment is from Jeffrey Seymour, 2227 Royal Street, New Orleans, representing FMIA in opposition. For the record, the FMIA notes the inclusion as of today's CPC meeting of new language inserted into the header of the subdivision ratification list, which is included in item 13 of today's CPC agenda. This new language states that the subdivision ratification will now include the ratification of certain applications that have not yet been certified by the staff, and where the commission is ratifying the staff determination that the application may be reviewed and approved administratively. Essentially, this is a procedure whereby the commission is deemed to have pre-ratified and pre-approved any particular subdivision application that the commission staff or the executive director chooses in their sole discretion and without any oversight to include on any given subdivision ratification list, thus effectively eliminating the commission's role and participation entirely in the subdivision approval ratification process. As we have expressed several times to the commission, we continue to be opposed to any amendment in the subdivision approval and ratification process, which has the effect of either reducing transparency into the approval process generally, or potentially restricting the opportunities for public comment on matters of interest to the community. At the very least, we would be curious to know the purpose behind the commission's apparent sign off on a new procedure, which effectively eliminates their role entirely in the approval and ratification process of certain applications chosen at the exclusive direction of the commission staff or executive director. Putting aside the issue for the moment of whether this new procedure is in direct violation of the current subdivision regulations, which grant subdivision ratification authority exclusively to the commission only, why is the commission essentially giving its proxy on a subdivision ratification to the commission staff on any application the staff chooses to place on the subdivision ratification list, thereby in some instances potentially pre-ratify the approval of a subdivision application which the staff has not even reviewed yet?
This is Commissioner Lund.
Oh.
Is this a misunderstanding of, do we need clarification here for the person who made the public comment? That my understanding is that is the current situation and we have recently taken action to remedy it.
So let me comment, and Stephen, if I'm missing anything, please jump in. Commissioner Lund, you're exactly right. I think that what this new approach does is exactly the opposite of what this commenter is suggesting is happening. If you all recall, with the case on Elysian Fields, the previous approach to subdivision ratification of administratively approved had the ratification done after we had already certified the application. And in many cases, and in that case in particular, the subdivision had already been recorded. An act of sale was based upon that particular re-subdivision, and then an issue was raised at the ratification stage, and ultimately it was denied, which, as you all can understand, created a huge problem. So what we had talked about when we reviewed the proposed subdivision regulation revisions at the last meeting was that instead of doing the ratification after a certification has been done, we would do it before the certification has been done, but after the staff has made a determination that it is eligible for administrative approval, so that the commission gets to weigh in after we make a determination, but before we actually formally certify something, so that two things can happen. One is if the commission disagrees, then the commission can intervene and tell us that we need to take a new direction. And two, that the list of subdivision applications that are up for ratification gets published to the public prior to any formal determination being made, which is, again, the exact opposite of what has been happening historically for the past 20 some odd years. So I just wanted to make clear that I think that we are trying to address the exact issue that this respondent is raising, and I think it actually is much more transparent than what has been taking place previously.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from any other commissioners? Any additional input? All right, so I think our last item, we still need approval for the subdivision ratifications.
Commissioner Brown will move to ratify.
Commissioner Lund will second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Brown and seconded by Commissioner Lund for ratification, the subdivision ratifications that are listed. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lund?
Yes.
Commissioner Mobley?
Yes.
Commissioner Steig?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart? Yes. Commissioner Weberg?
Yes.
And Commissioner Witry?
Yes.
All right, unanimous support for approval. At this time now, commissioners, do we have any announcements or any committee updates?
On the Personnel Committee, we have 2 staff members that will be joining us, and I will update everyone when that meeting is scheduled in July, so that we can discuss our next 100 days. So there's an update.
Right. And we have another junior commissioner joining us.
Yes, we do. Yes.
So at this time now, the chair will here entertain a motion for adjournment at 3:24. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Witry, yes. Let's adjourn the meeting. We'll see everybody in July.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Lund, and the chair will just take a unanimous, take a vote by the show of hands. All in favor? Any opposition? The motion is carried. All right, thank you guys. Have a great day.
Yep. Stay well, everybody.
Bye.